Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of Deconstructing Distortions. My name is Allie with a.Marie.Speaks. This series is slow to get going and very sporadically posted, so if you forgot about it, no need to worry, because I myself haven't been keeping up with it as I would like to. However, I had some time and I wanted to try to do quickly a little episode. They're supposed to be quick anyways, so this is really also a sort of exercise for myself, these videos, to try to cut things quick and to be able to offer in the forefront one term or phrase that is highly distorted and talk about sort of the dissecting it into these different ways that distortions play out and how we could interpret them, and maybe peel back the layers in a way that's personal to me, usually about kind of how I've learned about the different aspects of the term. Now, this is a secondary venture for me. I really loved it too. I haven't completely closed it, but I haven't done an episode in a long time. And it's on my old channel mostly. Everything's on my old channel. Since I got locked out at the end of 2024, I've sort of been scooting everything and uploading live over here on a.Marie.Speaks too, because obviously I can't get in there. But Comprehending Consciousness was sort of the first version of this exploration, and that I really geared towards people who are newly waking up and wanted to learn more about sort of all of the catchphrases that the conscious community is talking about, or things that go viral. I sort of talk about woke versus awake, and twin flames, and ascension, love and light. I talk about all those kinds of phrases, but break them down into a more reality-based, metaphysically based, tangible working, instead of the kind of glitter Hollywood superficiality version that's really plastered around the mainstream about it. To sort of break people out, understand that this is the tip of an iceberg, and that you really need to go and do your own scuba diving to find the belly of the iceberg underneath, right? Here is a bit more supposed to be divers grouping together who've been doing long diving. And I'm hoping in the secondary Deconstructing Distortions to have a similar setting of what term to discuss and such, but that this is geared towards more adept students, those of us who've been sort of around the conscious community for a while and have already sort of permeated that all of the tours of the tips of the icebergs, and we have other data to sort of come forward with in our own adventures and experience points to really look at different, some terms start to show up once you've done that kind of work. And you'll notice, as an honest, true student seeking, your best, highest good, that you're going to bump into these people out here who are supposedly, awake, who are actually woke, and who are in these trips and these loops all of their own, who keep falling back asleep, but who claim that they are sort of awake. And certain terms turn into these sort of, misinterpreted phrases that get sort of echoed around in the echo chambers out here. And so in hopes of clearing ground and in hopes of sort of getting rid of false repetition of bad productions, I kind of want to offer out an edited version of what I feel like these terms offer. So that's what Deconstructing Distortion is really about. With a quick, everybody, let's get back on the page about what I'm even talking about here, because I haven't put a video out, maybe even in 2025 on it, I don't think. Episode 5 previously did the topic man, I believe. And yeah, that in itself is, anyway, let's get on to the topic at hand today. For for all of those. I mean, you're going to know because the title is Master, right? There's two things in the forefront of this term that I really want to bring up and talk about, and then I might have some other podcasts sort of and other uploads later to dive into things a little deeper. But for now, I just wanted these episodes are supposed to be just an intro anyways, even though I do expect and hope that others, take the material, take a long time to think through and contemplate the material, chew on the material for a long time. But I want the video to take a long time to explain, right? So, I mean, because I could talk about these things for a really long time, and I probably will write on them even more. And I already did a little infographic thing, a preliminary share about it. I'll put that on YouTube too, because I think I might have only shared that over on Telegram, but I'll put it on the community tab on YouTube. When we look at and hear the phrase master, two things immediately come into mind. And that is the master of authority, a slave master, right? We have the negative version of master, and then we have this other version of master, and that is the craftsman, the master of his trade, right? That is a master of execution, of knowledge. It's mastery in action, versus we have a master who is playing out mastery over others, and sometimes it's difficult to tell even when we're using which word for what reason. And for myself, in my own sort of studentship journey, I like to hold both and try to hold both as a variable, plug them both in and run the equation with both, to see how they get the answers, how they balance. So it's been a really interesting weighing. And what a term I felt, that this is such a great highlighting of how things hide in plain sight, of how words are trickery, of how intention of spoken word, intention of design and purpose are really the designators, and that the audio word that we stamp upon it after fact is just a follow suit. It's symptomatic repercussion, kind of what the intention is. And a lot of us don't grasp that at first, and a lot of us are sort of in this one term, and we use the context that it's being used in to define the term of master, and sort of leave them totally separate, right? That they don't really interact, and they would never interact. And for those of us who are more awakened and who are on this adept student level, you can really see the potential energy usage and the great work that gets uncovered when we remember that this word is a dynamic. It's really a contrast to be examined, not just a word. All words are really like this, so it's not just the word master, of course, but there's such a strong delineation, I feel, with this one that I couldn't help but have to say, yeah, that's going to be the next one. So when we think about systems and how the world works, it's obvious there's already a setup happening, and that alignment, the rules and laws that all that stuff fit into, is of negative alignment. It's debt-based. It requires more to continue to go, and is run off of strict and restrictive checks and balances of energetic exchanges to where service and retribution are outlined to a T. You know, this service, this retribution, this act, this amount of money. You know, sell this apple for this price. At this weight costs that. You know, there's all of these rules that the external follows that the person, the individual in the internal world must go and meet and match. And that in itself is actually an inverted understanding about the way that infinite intelligence seeks to live, seeks to function, because we are on this exploration of manyness. It's all a development. And when we create these really strict parameters, doesn't hold positive resonance. It cannot. You can't serve two masters. And so again, this is why I love this word, and I love how the term master in itself is a combo definition, is a combo presentation. And of course you can say, oh, one's a noun and one is an adjective. It's a different in its grammatical usage, and therefore of course it has a different definitions and different malleabilities, you know. But and yeah, cool. You can explain it away with grammar if you so choose to. But I like to look deeper and dive deeper, and that's what I really think this series is here for, and what I'm trying to create a space about. You know, so the master over others. In the first place, to hold yourself in a setting of a master is a negative alignment in general. There can be a potentiality for balancing where positive outcomes can still come from a mastery, point of authority. But that all depends on the creator consciousness within the rulership, right? There has to be conscious awareness in order for that charge to be balanced correctly. And so what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that it's not ideal. It's not the ideal placement, because ideally things flow without too much monitoring. That's, you know, everything should sort of be symbiotic. You know, it's like the gardener versus having a food forest, right? A food forest sort of takes care of itself because nature knows, and these sort of plants, they grow well together, they feed each other, they are reoccurring, and they stimulate growth around each other and create a biosphere and habitat that is symbiotic and cyclitic, with annuals and perennials that will sort of feed each other and keep the growth going in ways that is beneficial to all of the different forms of life, right? Versus having a garden, a monocrop, or having even a farmer's version of the garden where it's you till the land, you have a crop of this, a crop of that, and the farmer really goes and does all of the watering and the maintenance and the care and tests the soil and all that kind of stuff. That in itself is a form of a master, but you can you can be a benevolent garden. You can be a steward of the garden, right? And you can choose to operate your system of segregation in a grand reflection of the whole, and that balances and creates a place and space of positivity, even though it has its first bend into a negative alignment, or it's into a negative realm. But that is hard to hold and maintain. It takes certain character to be a farmer or gardener. It takes a habitual, schedulized person who wants to be up every day, rain or shine, who knows, it has a certain knowledge base and has a certain scheduled lifestyle that meets that, and it calls for that, and it's pleasant to live that way. And not all people are like that. Just like it's not many people can hold mastership in that way. What happens usually is that the initial bend into mastery turns into a self-serving system, and the master becomes the pivotal whole self of the system, and everything, like the sun, sort of it all revolves around. Don't get me started on the heliocentric model, actually. But anyways, another stuffed Freudian slip there. But the negative bend in alignment in the lie creates this falsity of a heliocentric model, to where the person is now the sun with everything circling around it, and the whole garden depends on the farmer. And it really does too. And if the farmer's miserable, it's not going to be good crops. It's not going to be, and if we think about, not just, if we put that into, say, instead of a farmer, a teacher, right? Another person who sort of stands in authority over others naturally in a position of leadership. However, when we think about master, right, and we go to a schoolmaster, and the old school models and all of that, it's super directional in a negative hierarchy, with need to know, with exchanges, with communication allowed, and it's just, the typical master bend says the teacher has all the curriculum, hands it down to the students, and the students memorize, meet, and know, and match that curriculum. You don't question the curriculum, because the teacher is already the higher knowledge, who's already done the questioning, made them all, and knows what needs to be questioned and what doesn't, and offers that information down to the student base. And the student base, memorizes and regurgitates it in a repetition, which again, false alignment, because it's that 1 + 1 + 1 gives us 3. It's the accumulation of repetition of sameness, the counting of quantity, that is an artificial placement of getting what the whole really means. It doesn't even mean that. Just like students and masters, teachers shouldn't even, the curriculum should be birthed out of the students based on each individual's a new learner, and they have a path met to them of a desired affinity and gift they're called forth to cultivate. Their learning should be shaped around their affinities, and also to bolster up their weaknesses, and that's very individual. That you can't have a curriculum that meets every student. You can't make curriculum before the student that way. And if any teachers, some teachers do know this, and we have some schools that attempt to do stuff like that. But again, hard charge to carry, because we've made this initial bend in the first place to create artificial hierarchy of a passing down of directed, stamped, and controlled information. Now the opposite, or the reflective idea of the master, is the hierarchy, is this air, right? The air, where we're passing down, H-E-I-R, instead of H-I-E-R, right? We flip them around, and we have a more positively aligned passing on. This is now yours, make it yours. You own this material, take care of it, honor it, respect it, remember who it came from and why they made it the way they did, but also it's your time to hold it and to put your impressions on it, and you will need to pass it on to others. So what you do matters with it now, and be of ownership of it. This is how the student and the teacher meet, and we get out of this tiered hierarchy of slave and mastery and teacher and student, because the teacher remembers he was once a student, and also the student will be the teacher one day. And so it gets the gradient of movement and fluidity back into this really rigid, forced need to know of negative directionality can only happen this way. To remember, oh yeah, no, it does happen this way, and oh, wait a minute, this way doesn't work so well at a really strict tier here. We better sort of even it out on level ground, so we can do a rightful this way and that way, a balancing. But again, that's a hard thing to understand and to know and to step into with this version of master, the negative official version of master. And so yeah, those are kind of the ways that it is negative, but we can try to balance and turn some positive into it. But I want to get into the positive side and also the negative side of the positive side too, before we close out this video, and we're at 20 minutes. So I want to try to keep these ones just around that good time. Our more positive version that emphasizes or encourages positive exchanges and systems in a more conducive and comfortable manner, right? Again, positive systems are all consent-based, and they're non-infringing. And so that means we leave open boundary space for others to cross into on their own choice of will. And when they willingly choose to consent and to cross into a place that is of something else, you know, we know that they have made that choice of their own volition and it's not infringing. And then the communication is, we know it's on an equal footing, or that's more likely to be comfortable on an equal footing at least, right? So master, when we think of to become a master of your service, of master of art, of, you know, of a skill, that entire definition and template, the conceptual symbology that comes along with it, is much more connected to student and learning and change. It already has more wiggle room in it because it has that artwork sense to it that comes with artisan, unique imprints that are tailor fit, that this beauty, this you know, all of these different creative ideas and energies and concepts start to come in. And again, that creates, it just is more fertile ground than the negative even allows for at the start. But we can easily tip it negative and turn mastery self-serving, because the master will become identified by the craft and try to take the craft and make the craft identify with the master. And when we do these entangling things here, it's not good, because concepts should be free. And especially trades, skills, any paintings, like it's a subject that individuals all come to be a part of, and it can't have strict boundaries around it, because it's to be witnessed. It's meant to be exchanged. You know, artwork is meant to be appreciated. A sculpture is meant to be seen. A beautiful house is meant to be lived in. A beautiful fence is meant to be looked at. You know, all of the different designs, the organizational services, all of the things that are called within us as individuals and humans to do in community and be of action within, right? To be of mastery of anything that you could ever choose to be a master of, right? It's a thing already. And it's sort of owned by the collective. It's in the external space. And it's a co-creative thing that you step into and become a part of. And when we accept that and we sort of pay homage to intelligence, infinite intelligence, source, God, what, you know, your ancestors, your higher self, your soul, your guts, whatever, your heart, whatever you want to call it, your muse, it's a retribution act in itself. It's this open honoring of the co-creative place and space. And that, again, overall positivity. That is the function and flow of positive alignment. So it initially gives you this great positivity. We have to bend it downwards to make it negative. You have to make the service all about yourself, or make it debt-based and say you have to provide money. Money has to be the exchange for the worth of the beauty you think you've created. It's not beautiful or worthy. It's not good enough unless somebody pays a high price for it. And, you know, bam, we've taken it negative immediately. And there's not a lot of balancing that's ever going to come out of that. But there is great potential to have and understand how to take it positive and how to run positively with things, and to never put a price tag on things that you create through service, because you're already paid through the creation of the thing that you've made, because it's paid with inner intention, energies, attention, love, and action. That's what is the payment. That's the currency. Your own energetic currencies is being paid and felt during the act of doing the thing. That's why it's your gift. That's why it's your service, or whatever you're called forth to make or do. You already have the inkling inside of you. And now you're asking for extra payment, extra validation on top of it. It's kind of like a slap in the face to yourself and to spirit in the forefront. And then, you know, it causes the ripple effects of karmatic negativity, and it sets your whole alignment in an inverted negative sense, and then bam, you never have enough, and you're not good enough, and you'll never be paid enough. And even if you're selling $1 million artworks, somehow you'll find yourself in $1 billion debt. You know, Even if you've got, once it was good enough to have 10 followers, and then you've got 1,000, you've got 100,000, it's not good enough, you need 1,000,000. Then you've got the million, you need 100K, 100 million, excuse me. You know, it's like, it's, when we choose to make it not enough, it will never be enough. But again, you know, it's the choice of how we see these things and how we choose to interact with them. True master, and a true master of their craft, knows that. They get that great feeling of doing whatever that they're doing. And when it does come to completion and fruition, and it is done beautifully, maybe people do want to pay a lot of money for it, or maybe you do end up all your needs met and more in great abundance. You know, you will end up in that way, because you'll see it that way. It's like, you know, you get what you give. So when we have these false application points of mastery, and we set ourselves up to fail, you know, it's because we have bad alignments. And if we could just pull some balancing into them and find the more positive alignments. Sorry, my camera's starting to fade. I hope it's not going to show up on the thing, on the recording, but it is starting to turn red. I have to wrap it up. I've gone for long enough anyways. But when we can recognize that there are these two sort of light and dark aspects on both sides of the way that we even see this word, and then to dive into all four kind of options in there, and then to play with how and where we operate and where we see ourselves when we use these terms, when we act as masters, when we encounter others who we have dynamics between, you know, being more conscious of how we're seeing ourselves, and allowing ourselves freedom, the capacity to know that we're all worthy, you know, sovereign right to life and unconditional love, and all these great things that come with the adept studentship, right? We get good, active, clinical exercises to work through in the world when we can look at these terms in that kind of way, and then gauge through our day in all these different scenarios and circumstances how we meet those words and actions. So that's my longer-esque video here, deconstructing the distortions of the term master. Thank you so much for listening and joining me. Hopefully my next episode won't be many months away from now. We'll see how time unfolds and how things go. But thank you just for your energy, for joining me and your audience, for returning to my channel. If you are a longtime viewer, if you followed me from original a.Marie.Speaks onwards, I really thank you so much and appreciate that. If you just found me now, feel free to go check my old channel, because I got like 300 videos over there or something, all different topics, metaphysical things, and a bunch of other stuff. I'll leave links in the description for anybody who wants to find it quickly. Thank you, and yeah, we'll see you next time.